Hello, everybody. You are listening to Sunday Live with myself, Caleb. If you've not been to the show, I want to welcome you. And if you are a regular, I want to welcome you too. For folks who are chatting on YouTube, my Facebook page, or the Twitch account, your comments will appear right up here. So we can see them if you have questions for our guest today, or if you any questions about the music, the show, etc., just go ahead and post the comment and we'll get you answers. So without further ado, I want to bring my sidekick and regular Joe Price on here. But it's for us. Hey, Joe, you talk.
Hey, I'm talking. Good evening. Good afternoon.
It's kind of an automatic thing where whoever's talking appears on screen. And so I can't really control that. I haven't figured out a way to manage that. So we always get a little clip of the guest, or when the guest comes on, I'll get a clip of you. How is it in the San Francisco Bay Area?
Well, it's day one of a huge heat wave, which is ironic because we got a lot of Santana winds, 50-mile-per-hour gusts at the higher elevations, kind of like here, which means there's lots of leaves blowing into my quart of ice cream, which I have at my side for first aid against the heat. It's 85 degrees Fahrenheit at my desk and my deck here at the house, amidst the trees and such, and very light film of smoke from a new fire up north. But overall, it's been a very good day. A day down by the water, riding a bicycle that I've been test riding, and then afternoon at a friend's house right before nap. And wrapping up a good evening here with your show.
Cool. We, a week ago, so Saturday before last, we got the rains came in and that was done with the smoke because we were stuck inside up here for over a week by Seattle. But we have that North Pacific rainstorm come through and clear everything out. And it's been clear all week and we've been able to go hiking and do stuff. The temperatures dropped back down to 55 to 65. So I think we're done with our weather challenges for the year.
Yeah, I can't wait for fall and for the rain. It would be great. Things will get clearer, cleaner, just crisp, and a change of scenery, basically, without having to leave the area.
I'm still getting used to the change. I thought I'd gotten used to it, but the last 2 days I'm like, I'm cold. my body knows it's September. That's supposed to be a heat wave.
Right? Good enough for Bay Area.
Yeah. So if folks are just tuning in, I am broadcasting from Seattle. Joe is broadcasting from Berkeley, California, and I grew up in the San Francisco Bay Area and moved up to the Seattle area less than a year ago, so I'm still acclimating to the Pacific Northwest. So today, our guest of the week is SuperScore. SuperScore is a producer, songwriter, and organizer. And I originally met her at the Laptop Producers Workshop, I think is one of its four names, in Santa Clara, California, where you get to play your tracks for each other and get about 20 people give you reviews of how to improve your music and improve your recordings. It's a fantastic community. And if you are producing music at all in the Bay Area, I highly recommend that you join that group. So, Forrest, are you out there?
I am. Can you see me?
So tell me about the SuperScore name versus Forrest, because I know you as Forrest, but I'm introducing you as SuperScore, and
Sure.
I know I'm going to flip back and forth.
Yeah, and that's fine. Either one. Yeah, I have a long-standing love-hate relationship with my natural first name, my given first name, which is Forrest, and my middle name is Elizabeth, which I usually include in written communications, so people know I'm a girl. Yeah, that seems to be a thing. But yeah, it was a family name, and one I enjoy now as an adult more than I did as a kid. As for my artist name, though, you know, when I when I really started making more music, I wanted a real moniker, and my wonderful boyfriend, who always just comes up with the right thing, was throwing ideas out there, and he threw it out there and thought through it, and it had everything in it. Like super is wonderful, and it's, you know, a happy, vibrant connotation, and score can mean music or getting something. So either way, I thought it really worked out nicely, and was a great, you know, moniker for producing music. So
awesome and
although
positive.
there's another possible name in the works, but we'll see.
Oh, so you're going to change it on us again. We're just getting used to SuperScore, and so you'll be the producer formerly known as SuperScore.
Formerly known as SuperScore. Yes. Yeah, some of the other ideas fall more in the synthwave genre, and I think I talked with you about one of them, but Aston Martian is the next possible iteration. So we'll see what comes next. That might just be a passion project.
It sounds like a sports car on Mars, so
something like that. Yeah.
That sounds more like a band than a production. I like SuperScore. I think it conveys you very well, because your music is very soundtrack in style. Even the pop music you do has a soundtrack structure and style. And again, the Super has that sort of positive electronic, uplifting electronic sound that a lot of your music has.
Yeah, I think so. And, you know, the other thing, though, you said, you know, the other name is possibly a band name. It's interesting that a lot of the work we're going to look at today actually is kind of, you know, about collaboration, and you know, that process of how do you get to good ideas. And so, you know, it's great to have project names. It can be really fun and can kind of define the project. So, you know, I'm always trying to think of something new and different.
I'd say SuperScore would be your you know, professional name.
Yeah.
Aston
currently it is
Martian.
My production.
Ashton Martian, if I can get that out of my mouth. It sounds more like it brings out the comedy side. It sounds like, you know, quirky and more of a fun factor.
Fun factor for sure. Yeah.
And we've got an array of samples of your work here to share with the audience this week. And I saw this video just, I think it was only a week ago, you posted it to Facebook, and I'm like, that's so fun. I got to get Forrest on here just so I can show everybody this video. It is so adorable.
About Zoom time.
And collaboration.
Would you give a little background on it?
You know, I'm going to show it to everybody, and then let's come back and we'll get the background on it, how it came about, and all that fun detail. So this is Zoom Time, and SuperScore here produced it, and we will talk more about it after we show you the video.
I like to explore cause that's my persona, but I'm stuck in my home now thanks to Corona. School's online, will I get my diploma? Stuck in my home? I don't need no sunscreen, but I won't lie, it can get tough in quarantine. Seeing my friends, that's what I be wanting, but this wife's going crazy so my TV and me bonding. I don't like online school, my friends and I are cool. I'm stuck in my bedroom, make this virus go kaboom. School sessions happen on Zoom, music PE dance on Zoom, hanging with my brother in the living room. But when I go on Fortnite, I go boom, boom, boom.
I am a player just to pass the time, staying safe inside and making my rhymes.
I'm tired of sitting at the screen all day. I wanna go outside with my friends to play. And if I may say, this Corona is great. Corona, leave us, just go away. I like to ride my bike and I like to ride fast, but it's kind of hard to breathe when I'm wearing a mask. We can't go to the pool on these hot summer days. Is COVID-19 really here to stay? School in the fall? On a video call? Guess I'm stuck in my room. Make Corona go kaboom. School sessions happen on Zoom. Music, PE, dance on Zoom. Hanging with my brother in the living room. But when I play basketball, boom, boom, boom.
I am a baller just to pass the time. Play on my driveway keeps me feeling fine.
We can't go to dinner, no parties, no love. We wash too many dishes, we always have to cook. I try to do my homework and sometimes I get stuck. But my teachers are so cool and they help me cause they rock. I would rather go to school. My friends and I are cool. I do what I gotta do. Make this time go kaboom. School sessions happen on Zoom. Music, PE, dance on Zoom. Hanging with my brother in the living room. But when I get on YouTube, I go boom, boom, boom. When I get on YouTube, I go boom, boom, boom.
I am Sri Krishna and I'm here to say, just keep on exploring each and every day. Someday we'll be in school again. See you on Zoom till COVID-19
Coronavirus,
ends.
bye. Stay safe, everybody.
That was Zoom Time, Sri Krishna, produced by SuperScore. So, yeah, tell us a bit about how that project came about.
Sure. First of all, this project has really gone much further than I ever expected it to. I think we have roughly like 65,000 views now on YouTube. So, in my wildest dreams, I really wasn't quite expecting that level of response to it. And the way this came about is this family is local. Sri Krishna Explores is a channel that they created for their son. He has just turned 10 years old and just surpassed 13,000 followers, which is really amazing. And so a friend of theirs was trying to find some help for them, and he comes to our meetup. So organized the Silicon Valley Music Production Workshop along with Gene Dre Band and a couple other really great people. He contacted me through the meetup, and it just went from there. I started working with them. I recorded vocals with Sri Krishna, which was amazing. Working with a 10-year-old is completely different than than working with an adult, and he is just really, really focused, which was really insane. Like, he could memorize something and instantly. So I guess some of the interesting parts to this were that he had submitted an essay to his teacher, and the essay was meant to be about what is it like to basically be in quarantine as a child, not being able to go to school. And so he wrote this piece, and he had a music teacher who worked on some lyrics for him and kind of turned it into a poem that he could rap. And he had done another rap previously, so he kind of already had the gist. But when I went through it, there were definitely some lines that were really hard for him to say. And I also thought it didn't have any strong hooks in it. So I wrote some vocal hooks for it and I sang them. That's me singing on the track. I'm not a professional vocalist. I've been singing my whole life, but I was an oboist, and the music teacher jokes around about, or used to anyway, about pushing wind through a reed doesn't make for the best singer. So at any rate,
I think you did a great job. You give it hooks, and it's this commentary that it's almost down enough in the mix that you don't notice it, and then but it's there and it's a backup singer, and you kind of think it's doing a typical female backup singer of "Ooh la la," kind of doing just a texture thing, and then you realize every word is commentary on what he's saying. It's a call and response, and you're putting a little quirky twist to his lyric in these comments. It's really cute.
Yeah, and writing the music too was a very, you know, very interesting component of this work. When we're writing music, many producers are producing alone in their bedroom, so to speak. You might have heard, if you're not in the music world, you might have heard of the term bedroom producer, and that simply means somebody who's working from home on their own, and really kind of doing everything. I think you can see, for any non-musicians, in the screen behind me, I just posted a picture of my studio as my background. That's what we call, the picture that's up on that screen is the software that we use to write music at home. Now, there's a lot that goes into that. And so, we try to do all the components of what goes into it. Whereas, maybe you've seen a band perform and the band has all the different instrumentalists, but I, as a producer alone in my home, have to come up with all those instrumentals, and I have to make them electronically.
And this is
Anyway, yeah.
a big thing for a lot of people. Is we've watched movies and motion pictures for decades that show the studio and the band and all these elements, and then maybe you got to see a movie that showed you, behind the mixing board doing a little bit of mixing. Maybe you've watched one of these rock documentaries where they actually show you a producer sitting there with the engineer. And so you had the musicians, you've got the songwriter, sometimes it's the lead singer, sometimes not. So there's songwriters and lyricists, and song is the lyrics and the vocal melody. So you've got someone that did that. Now the band is kind of covering, whether it's their own track, song or not, they're covering in the studio. The engineer is just trying to get all the recordings levels perfect, right? And the mix engineer, you may have a technician handling equipment, making sure all the equipment is working fine. And then there's a producer there standing back and getting the top level view of what's going on, because their job is to produce the audience and to manage the executive producer who's managing the money. So that was the classic model. And now we've distilled this all into one person, and we distilled all that equipment into a home studio like mine. And then you're calling it a bedroom studio because it's literally just a space on your wall versus, I have a 12 by 12 room here as a studio, and you're condensing it even further. So you're wearing all these different hats and doing all the work yourself, and the instruments are virtual instruments. So it's like that whole world compressed into a little pill, and you're responsible for making that pill work.
Yeah, it's a lot of responsibility.
No pressure.
You have the entirety of Abbey Road Studios rolled up almost like a Murphy bed against your wall.
That's incredible.
Yeah,
For those that don't know what a Murphy bed is, that's where the bed folds up into being like a hutch.
Yes, my studio is the Murphy bed of the studio.
The Murphy beds of steel. Murphy bed of steel. And I have friends who have home studios, and they could be small, they're a little bigger. But in the before the beginning of the show, you were describing your studio there. That is literally there's no legs on the desk, because that would get in the way.
Yeah, if you want a quick aside, so for the audience, I'll just tell you, my sister built, I'm not pointing at it, but my sister built that desk, and it floats on the wall. So this is a floating desk that is like 15 inches deep, and it has, the bottom drawer slides out, and I have what's called an 88 weighted MIDI keyboard sitting on that bottom portion. So we have it securely attached to the wall in the land of earthquakes, in an older construction home. Very questionable call, but right now it's managing to literally hold its weight. So it's really been a fine addition to a home, or to have this type of studio here. Bay
And to give
Area doesn't
people an
afford you
idea,
those.
this is a, what is it, 62, whatever the smallest. You usually have three sets. You have your 60 keys, your 70 keys, your 88 keys.
Yeah.
And this thing, I can just lift. It's, you know, it's just right about that lift for a little bit thing. And it's unweighted. So you're talking about longer than that, between another 20 keys, plus there
Hmm.
are like metal weights inside to make it feel like a piano. And now you've stuck it straight into a wall with molly screws with no other support in an earthquake zone. Just want to make that clear to the audience.
Yeah. Being clear about the fact that, and insurance is important. um, yeah,
I'm just starting to see like maybe cables at the end of the desk going into the ceiling.
that's
Uh,
right.
but yeah,
Yeah, maybe a suspension system eventually. But also, I do have a microphone, though the Secretions track, we did not record the vocals here. That's actually a cute story because he lives in a wonderfully large home and it's somewhat cavernous. It has a very high ceiling, it's very modern, and has like, I think you saw a lot of his home in the video. It was really difficult to get good recording. One thing when you're recording vocals that's important is how the room is treated, because otherwise you get a lot of echoes that can really affect how vocals sound. Every sound is always bouncing off of the walls. So as producers, we're always looking to minimize what we call reflections or other other noise that we don't want to happen in the recording. So that was definitely a little bit of a challenge. We literally don't have a room in that. He's like, oh, well, you get recorded in the bedroom. So I went up to the master suite and the ceilings go up to the moon. And there's like,
yeah, I was
no
watching that
sound
video and
happening anywhere.
I assumed you recorded at your home studio because seeing that glass on the side of the staircase, that's a nightmare for trying to record audio. And then
Yeah,
that high
yeah,
ceiling, I was like, oh man, he really lip syncs that well. Da, 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 da.
yeah.
And I just assumed you put him in a booth.
Yeah, no, and the other thing, of course, with COVID, we absolutely wanted to take good precautions, and it's very nice to record in their home because when you have a big space and high ceilings, there's a lot more airflow, and so personally, you know I liked the idea versus being in a smaller space, but yeah, that worked out really well, and we got a good recording, but I think, really the whole thing came together because of all the people who also, worked on this track. Some amazing people that I hope you will interview in the future, Caleb. And I will mention them. I would like to go through and mention them quickly and let everybody know who did what because it's quite a team. So Riley Farrell and I have written some music together in the past. Riley's handle, if you look him up on SoundCloud, I think it's This is a Capybara. Riley loves capybaras. So that is his stage name. Riley is an amazing composer, and the process of working together is so cool. We had to hop on Zoom to do it. Normally, in the past we've worked together in person, but what we would do is we'd literally just sit there and write stuff. Like I would play something on the keyboard, I would bounce that audio clip and send it to him. He'd listen to it, he'd bounce something back, and so we had this folder of about 10 ideas, and then we finally settled into a chord progression that actually Riley started the chord progression and chose those guitar instruments and had a bunch of effects on that, and then I took it and ran with it and built it into the track, and then from there we had Robbie Heights. Robbie is an incredible producer. He's on his way to becoming a next level mixing engineer, and you should check him out. I can probably put links to everything later, but yeah, so Robbie jumped in and worked on the mixing with me and just put that sparkle and shine on the track. And but I felt like my vocals were a little bit. I wanted them to sound a little more sparkly. I wanted them to have a kind of just a little more of a youthful kick to them. So I got Tiana Milan involved, and just a beautiful singer and producer. Tiana's writing some incredible music, and another person I think everybody should be watching. I think she's just going to go on to do some amazing things. So she jumped in and she threw some little vocal chops in there. So when you hear kind of in the middle of the song, you hear somebody saying like "ah," and
Yeah.
some just responses to some of the
Uh-huh.
lines. That's Anna, and then her mother jumped in and recorded the word "bye." So we've got some cool chops in there from Tiana. She was also saying "zoom, zoom, zoom" with me in those phrases. So a lot going on there. And then the whole thing was mastered by Julius Devos. And these are all people in the Silicon Valley music production meetup. So that
Wow.
was really cool.
It really shows in the work, the professionalism of the people that worked with you on it. And
Yeah,
back to this idea of
absolutely.
collaboration, the fact that now you've telling me that the three people touched that female vocal, now it makes sense. I'm like, wow, how did she think to react that? Because it's like it's not like thought up written reactions. It's just like I'm listening to this song and I'm just giving commentary back. It's very natural. Um, and the little bye at the end, yeah, it's like you do the whole song. One person says one word, and you go, that's it. It's like without that, it would be missing something. And that's the beauty of collaboration. It's not about how much each person brings to the table and is it even, but it's just about having different minds on something that will see something nobody else on the project does.
Different vantage points to the song.
Say that again, Joe?
Joe, you broke up a little bit. Can you say it again?
Different vantage points to the song, different set of ears that can give it a new perspective, a new dimension.
Absolutely. I mean, I've been, I've been trying to work with a number of producers just to help them meet their goals. And one thing that I've been saying a lot lately is, there's no team in I. And the, I mean, this is the thing. It's like you can get really good at everything, and maybe you're Grimes, and Grimes can literally do almost everything. But the truth is, even Grimes can't do everything. She can't do everything. It's just not possible. At the end, a mix engineer will sometimes be involved, and absolutely mastering engineer. She won't master her own stuff. And I mean, she's doing like way more heavy lifting. And when I talk about, the level of her productions and the amount of work that she puts into it, but there are very few people who have the ability to do it all, so to speak. And I really do think we also get more out of our ideas when we're working together than out on our own. So absolutely, collaboration I think is just one of the keys to really writing incredible music. At a minimum, getting feedback on what you're working on, getting early feedback is really key.
So even though the technology has changed in such a way, and the music business has changed in such a way that that whole team that used to work in the studio to produce something, and 100 takes later, the Beatles would have recorded enough material to edit then in post this bit and this and to make a final song. Even though that's distilled down technologically to everything that's on the wall behind you, there's a human factor where you just when you're staring at something so intently, you've got blind spots. So
Mhm.
bringing in other people still really takes that work to the next level.
Funny,
Well,
we
and I
have
think, yeah, go ahead, Joe. Sorry.
um, well, you brought up the example of Grimes. People like Grimes and Billie Eilish. They're the great resource of having like a one-room studio with someone like in the case of Billie Eilish, her older brother was the producer, and as great a technical sort of bomb shelter that is in this age of COVID, um, equally equally resourceful is having a network to fall back on. It could be a
Absolutely.
network for initial songwriting or production, and that network can be transcended to a network of it was like a growing organism. More and more resources. People get to network, and somebody who produces, somebody records, somebody maybe a contact, somebody who's good on distribution, somebody who's people who are better at social networking than others and copywriting on social networks, and just the collective pool, the collective talent pool, be amazing. It's an organism that keeps growing and growing, and the people within can benefit. The rising tide raising all boats.
Absolutely. I think
Well,
there's such great value in seeking out the people who you really would love to work with too. So I always encourage folks in the meetup, our meetup much bigger now, and when we're on our biweekly call, just being able to kind of listen to what somebody else is working on, and reach out to them if you love what they're working on, and tell them that you love it, and get engaged, and see if there's an opportunity to work together, and test to see if you work well together. So I do think this is like one of the keys to really upping your game. And for me personally, I've worked to build a network of good people over time, and continue to do that. And I think it's, for some people it's hard to reach out. Not everybody feels confident to reach out, but the truth is, if you can just get over the hump and even express gratitude to somebody who you really love their work and would love to work with them, you'd be surprised at the response that they'll come back with, and that they'd be interested to work with you.
It's the human factor, right? Yeah, you might think, oh, I'm not up to their level, but I encourage anybody, you want to grow, work with someone who's better than you, and you will grow. And if you think, well, I got to be a somebody before somebody's going to take notice of me, like you're saying, just being a good human being and complimenting someone on why you're inspired by them. Lots of times we're in our home studio and we don't hear that. There might be someone out there who loves a track. It just a person said just yesterday, oh, every time I get motivated, I put on Audio Terrorist, Who Are You, the album that I released last October. I hadn't heard anybody say that. I didn't know there was anybody out there. I see the plays and the streams and whatnot, but for someone to say, yeah, that album is something I use on a regular basis to get like really motivated. Oh my God. What a huge compliment. I want to work with him. And then he's like, well, hey, we should do a piece together. I'm like, okay, yeah, I'm sold. Just be a...
Yeah.
So I know a couple of my...
Yeah,
it was back in the beginning of the internet when I did this, but a couple people that I really admire a lot, Gary Newman and Tony Visconti, who did a lot of David Bowie albums. I was surprised. You email them like, hey, Tony, I'm working with this microphone and this EQ. How did you get that thing on David? And he would just respond back. It was like no big deal. It's like, you're a person, I'm a person. We're all working here. And it wasn't about like, I'm famous. So if you think you can't connect and work with someone, think again.
Getting a postcard from Stephen King was similar in that surprise.
yeah.
Well, I want to show another video clip here. I'm going to play this in the background. I have you talk about it. This is a little clip of Love Locked being produced. Then we'll come back, chat about it, and then we will watch the full video. So...
say I'm love locked, talk about you non-stop. Tell me, do you feel the same? I just think I'm starstruck. I just think you're good luck. My rainbow on a cloudy day.
So here you have, a home studio sequence recording in what looks like a, shoe closet. And you've got the reflector mic there to absorb the sound. And the artist is looking at their iPhone to read their lyrics while they're performing. Which I've never seen before.
Oh yeah, Caleb, get with the program. I mean, there's no more paper. So that is Miss Tiana Milan, and so the track is one that this track has kind of a funny backstory. This track started out as like the darkest possible track. I actually write a ton of really moody, dark stuff. And so this track was originally called Night Fight. And I was thinking about this Night, like Night.
Oh, knights, like knights in armor fighting.
Yes, I was thinking about the scene from Pulp Fiction when, not Pulp Fiction, sorry, Kill Bill 1, when Uma Thurman was negotiating a night fight with her antagonist in a dark park someplace. And anyway, so like there were lyrics like, you get what you deserve, some really harsh stuff. So that went on to become a different track because I liked the synthesizer so much. The pads that I used in the opening and the chords, I was like, wait, this would sound really great in, a happy, pop track. So then I started writing a dance track with that that was called Candy. And Candy had lyrics in it that were like, you're like candy, you're sweet, there's sugar in your heart. So kind of had these like
two opposite ends of the spectrum.
They came out of the same. So at any rate, yeah, so then that evolved even further because I liked the percussion. And so I plopped that over into another track and started reworking the percussion. And then all of a sudden another thing popped up. I'm like, okay, this is going to be a chill EDM track. And that's what it was called until I called Tiana in and said, hey, I pictured this as, an instrumental track, but I think that maybe we could do some vocals. And we were just going to have a session and she was going to work on one of her tracks. So we sat there and she pulled up, she has written tons of songs, tons of lyrics. And she pulled up something that she really liked for it. And so we worked on it together until we kind of got the messages that we wanted. And so we decided it's kind of semi-cheesy, love locked. And so we wanted to really carry that out. But of course, Tiana made it great because she just has such, she has these wonderful ideas and talks about love in a way that, it doesn't matter what you put on there, somehow it just comes off beautifully. So she had a love story around the idea of being love locked and, just no matter what happens, this person, you kind of keep coming back to them and see the good in them. And so then, yeah, that's where that all came from. And that was recorded in an afternoon. And that track is a work in progress. So I would call that what we call scratch vocal recording. It's kind of like, this is how the vocals are going to go. So we're probably 50% of the way through. We're going to re-record vocals actually this coming week. But I never mind showing work in progress. I think it's a really fun track and the idea is there. So that's the backstory on Love Lock.
Cool. Well, I'm going to go ahead and show play the song with a little visual video here. There's a demo version of Love Lock. The volume at the beginning is a little low, but it will come up. And but if you need to adjust your audio at your computer, probably wait until it gets into the first few bars before you do that. So here is Love Locked.
Love locked. Starstruck. Tell me, do you feel the same? Time heals the hole in us. I feel your hand, forgive me, baby. I know we're strong enough. We will make it to the end. How are you holding up? It's been a while since you've seen me. I'll make you smile again. You and I can never end. I'm love locked. I'm love locked. I'm love locked. Opposites attract, and we know that for a fact. Yeah, you just can't pull me away. It wasn't
about you non-stop. Tell me, do you feel the same? I just think I'm starstruck. I just think you're good luck. My rainbow on a cloudy day. I'm love locked. Tell me, do you feel the same? I'm love locked. My rainbow on a cloudy day. I'm love locked. Tell me, do you feel the same? I'm love locked. Rainbow on a cloudy day. I'm love locked. I'm love locked. I'm love locked.
That was Love Locked. Hey, that is a demo of a new song that's being worked on. Today, our theme on Sunday Live is about music production and collaboration. And we have our guest today as SuperScore, and SuperScore produced that track. And so we're just kind of teasing apart the process, the modern process of how songs are getting made, and how it's changed from the movies back in the day where you had $100,000 budget and I guess a producer in the back on the couch and the mix engineer and the drug dealer with the band and all that stuff, and how that's distilled down to a bedroom like you see behind me, and or even smaller as you see behind Forrest. So with this, our general theme is about collaboration, and all the pieces we're showing today are SuperScore productions that have happened by collaborating with other people. So one thing to be thinking about as you're watching this is, how might you collaborate with other people? Oh, look, it's the Mystic Moment. Hi, Mystic Moment of the Week. Mystic Moment of the Week is about collaboration. So for folks who watch the show every week, I challenge you with a Mystic Moment every week based on a theme. This week's challenge is not just collaborating, but collaborate with people you thought you couldn't collaborate with. Forrest was talking about how many people who are very professional and you might see as out of your reach, if you're just a nice person and you appreciate what they do and you reach out to them, they may be perfectly open to doing a collaboration with you. You'd be surprised. Also, we were talking about in the earlier song, Zoom Time, how different vocalists collaborated, and it just really made the track that much more live. I want to give you all a challenge to do something in this day and age that is a little tricky. Find someone to collaborate with that you don't necessarily agree with, and see what new ideas come out of that. Diplomacy is the art of taking two people who think that there's no way they ever can work with each other and finding where the bridges are and building those bridges. It's a tougher road to take, but I challenge you all this week to think about how you could do that in your life. Collaborate on music, art. It could just be a simple conversation. I reached out a couple weeks ago to a friend who we're definitely coming from two different headspaces. And I said, hey, would you be willing to talk about this? And we're having this great dialogue about our different perspectives and our different point of views. And for me, as an artist, I'm now getting new ideas for songs and creative works that otherwise I never would have. So that's, dear folks, is your challenge for the week. And we're going to get back to Forrest and find out more about Love Locked and the collaborations that she's working on. Let's see here. All right, we are back with Forrest. So so Love Locked was, you described the process of how you got, actually, hold on. My mind's jumping a couple different places. Before we get back to this, what I was going to say when I was looking straight at the audience is if you're joining later, we showed an adorable video called Zoom Time that you have to see. And I know the watch party synced up a little later. You might not have seen it there, or you're just joining later. Stay to the end of the show. And after the thank you, I will play Zoom Time again, because I think I saw it and immediately said, this song is going to take off. And Forrest is saying, yeah, it's taken off more than we expected. Yeah, it just, it's got a lot of great qualities. So back to Love Locked. So you said you were doing this song about knights fighting, like knights in armor. And then you had the other song, Sickly Sweet Love Candy. And then Love Locked has kind of come out of that. And the artist, I forget her name. What was her name? The lyricist?
Tiana Milan.
Tiana?
Yeah, Tiana Milan.
Tiana Milan. Tiana Milan.
Yeah.
Okay. So she's there with her iPhone just reading her lyrics and you get this new feedback that now takes something that it's a love song, but now has a little bit of tension about someone who maybe they're good for me, maybe they're not, but we're kind of in this connection. I realized really what you've created here is it's still the knights fight, but they're on unicorns.
Unicorns and hearts and sunshines.
That was a long setup. My wife is used to it.
I'm
now seeing the video, right? Now you got Love Locked, and now, because I throw that idea, because you gave me the backstory, I now can say, oh, in the video, that's the scene where the two knights are coming at each other with the unicorn. On two unicorns.
The song in and of itself has a flow that transcends its own structure. I mean, there is a structure, yeah, but it has a flow that transcends it. That's something as on a night drive at 3 a.m, coming home from a club.
Yeah. Yeah,
yeah.
Where this ended up is more kind of a drive in the convertible. It's funny because, originally I was going to produce it entirely as an instrumental track, and I was ready to go with that. Mostly what I write is instrumental, and I really was enjoying all the sounds that are in it. So the ideas are completely different, though. By adding Tiana's vocals to it, it changed the direction of the track, and also changed the energy. That entire last section, I'm still not really, sold on what I've put together there, but I think there's still a lot of work to do. But I really kind of liked that section wouldn't have existed without her singing. So, and how these things come together. It's complicated. The process of comping, we call it comping vocals, where you're taking all sorts of different vocal takes, you're re-recording over and over again, and you're kind of going, well, I like this piece of this track that we recorded, and I like this piece of this track that we recorded, and you find a way to stitch them together. And, in the days of tape, you would do this via stitching tape together or in a production studio. Now you can do it in your computer.
It's terrible.
Yeah. You may not have the song.
I would never want to go back. The darn razor blade and the tape's curling, and you're trying to get the context and slice together. For folks, I completely failed at that. I just finally chopped it up in a bunch of bits, threw it up in the air, and taped it randomly. I don't know how anybody has that much patience or had that much patience, but yeah, now we can just do it on the computer. And I was just listening to a track that Tim is producing for me. It's a song my wife wrote called Find My Way. It's on the first Caleb album, and we're doing an acoustic stripped down version. And literally I'm telling him, that one little syllable there, and he can go into the 50 takes we make and find that one syllable and cut and paste and replace it. It becomes more collage at that point.
Now, the song doesn't have to be a song, just instrumentals with the right touches here and there, spatterings of vocals. This reminds me a lot of the work by William Orbit and later on even Moby. Just the right doses of lyrics or even a chant here and there.
Yeah, there aren't actually a lot of lyrics in this piece. It's not the traditional verse chorus, structure. So I did chop up a lot of things. So I think when we go into the next phase of recording, we're certainly going to add different elements to the track, and it still may change. So I'll be excited to show you this track when it really reaches its release stages. I think we have work to do though.
So when you're working on a track, so modern folks again are used to recording studio rock star vision. Look over here. I have a picture of Forrest's laptop, which appears that she is on a beach somewhere. So tell me a bit. There's like some sort of like cabana plant thing, and the laptop is sitting there. It was in the folder, so I put it up. But it just gives people an idea that now you can just sit with your laptop and you go and record someone, all these, say 25 takes of them doing vocals, and then it's like Legos. You're cutting up bits of music and moving things around, and you could be doing that while you're having Mai Tai in Hawaii.
So yeah, I'll tell you something funny about that. That was in Cancun, and it was a cryptocurrency conference that I was there for, and so in between sessions we could go hang out at the beach.
Were you funding your next music product with a project with cryptocurrency?
Well, people who have known me for a while know that I've been involved in the Bitcoin world for a while, and I do love the potential of what the blockchain could do for artists in the music world.
And for those tuning in that have no idea what we're talking about, just a real quick summary.
Yeah, that's okay. We don't even
I
have
have
to
some
go
friends
there.
that are
My
big in this area.
commentator-
I have to I have to connect you with Steve Turnage. He's a mastering engineer up here in Seattle, and he's big on the blockchain and all that. So just a simple version, think of it, you got, when you exchange one chicken for one chicken, that's a real tangible, okay, yeah, one chicken for one chicken. And then you start saying, well, I'm going to give you a few beads for that chicken, right? You start creating these equivalencies in the world, and eventually you get, some coin. You're like, okay, that much gold is worth the chicken. And then you get to paper, and you're like, well, this piece of paper is backed up by some gold, right? And then in the 70s, the U.S. went off the gold standard, so there's technically no gold behind the dollar. It's perceived value. So now this paper has a perceived value, and you're going to still get the chicken. Well, what happens in the electronic age, and this is oversimplifying, but once currency is just swiping a credit card, it's just numbers. There is no gold, there is no paper, it is just data. And how do you manage that data, make sure that data is secure? How do you value that data and those data transfers and agreements of what the value of things are, which is what the stock market really is. But, you bring in the pig, and the pig is worth so much. And so when you hear Bitcoin and things like this is the attempt to move monetary exchange into a purely digital form. And there's a lot more to the blockchain and how it works, and how not only could it be used not just for, think of it like once you're in digital world, okay, it can be money, but the blockchain could be used for creative collaboration as well, right? It can give you a structure or process by which it's all data, and everything you're seeing on the screen over here, this is a song being produced, but literally underneath all that pretty picture of waveforms that you're moving around in like Lego blocks, it's just zeros and ones. It's data. And yes, you're listening to the radio, you are listening to just data that is manipulated in a digital world, and money's just the same. How close was that for a Luddite?
I think that was a very capable description of, you know, of
I've
Bitcoin.
been, I've been hanging out with my
But
friend Steve, and
I
he
think I
talks
should
way
spare
above me, and I have to like distill it.
yeah. Yeah, we'll save Bitcoin for another time. But yeah, it's interesting. Like your point though about data and music now. I mean, we are working in a digital medium. I grew up playing instruments. I had a violin or a piano or an oboe. Um, um, or I was using my voice, which I can still do, but today I could actually make samples of my own voice and use a digital format to create vocals. I don't even need it to actually be my original recording. I might take something I did and turn it into a piece of digital material that can be used. So it's a very interesting time for music. It definitely opens up possibilities. It definitely opens up um, the world of music to so many more people. And there are lots of interesting debates about that. I mean, you can find thinking that challenges it, and then thinking where it really is wonderful that a lot of people have this ability to create this way. And it is very hard, to make music without, you know, other people involved. If you want to play an instrument, for example, if you're a pianist and you want to, you wish you had a guitarist in the room with you, and then you wish you had a singer and a drummer, you need those three other people in order to make or four other people to make something happen. So this is an incredible time, and it is really interesting to think about what is the future of music, which is again like there are a whole panel series on that topic alone. But I personally am benefiting from it, and moving into this medium has afforded me the luxury of getting out so many ideas that I was holding inside for all the years before the technology came, and before I even became capable on the technology itself. Being able to use a digital audio workstation, being able to understand, the bare minimum and more about MIDI technology and how does sound synthesis work and all of those things. So there's a learning curve, but certainly anybody can also get involved very quickly. So many good tools like GarageBand, for example. I mean, if you want a Mac, you own GarageBand. You can sit down and start making music. And there's even more.
I believe GarageBand is free if you have an Apple product, right?
It is free.
So your iPhone, your iPad, laptop, Mac. It literally is like, in the beginning, it may have been basic, but I came back to it after being away for 7 years. And I'm like, oh my goodness, this thing has gotten powerful, and you can produce
GarageBand is
your own album for free.
Very powerful tool, yeah, for early stage production. When you want to do really complex things, that's DAWs that have a little bit more capability. And when I say little, I'm talking about the size of an ocean. Lived my whole life.
By the way, folks, this is a bottomless hobby. If you think collecting cars and motorcycles and stuff like that, because it's all digital, it's all it's how much you can put on your hard drive space. And terabytes are now $99 at the corner store.
Yes.
You got tons of these hard drives hanging around, but there's really no limitation anymore. And I went through that same thing where I was doing a lot of choral singing. I didn't have the money for a synthesizer, and I didn't have the talent for a guitar. So I did choral singing. It's what I had and walked around with me, but I wanted to. And then Dan Wyman, who was an earlier guest on our show, I started taking his recording classes, and it was all tape and very short lengths, sequences. I did a version of Fur Elise where I think it was like every 16 notes I had to program into the keyboard, then record to tape, and then hit delete, and then do the next 16 chords, and then record, hit record on tape, and then slice out the little pauses. It was brutal. And now if you want to get into music, there's so many paths. And by the way, a friend of mine wants me to teach a class. So this is my first pitch. I'm going to start teaching a class in a couple of weeks called Songwriting for Non-Musicians. So if you say, I'm not a musician, I'm not anything, but I just want into this world, my class will be for you. Watch for some ads online. Now,
Yes.
having talked about this, you described your music as having edge and darkness and all this stuff. I'm not hearing that in the stuff today, but it is mainly instrumental. So I want to play Black Pearl next as an example of a purely instrumental piece.
Sure. And one thing I'll say about this track is not a collaboration. This was all my music is original. I mean, I write the full composition, and the aesthetics is about it. And there have been a few occasions in the past when I've had some collaborations, but some of this older stuff that you're going to see next, these are all original works. This one in particular, this one has I think more of that feel you're talking about. So I also wanted to tell you I put a visualizer on this. Yesterday was my first attempt at working with visualizers, and I had to bring it to an end. So I apologize to everybody.
Well, if this was, I'm surprised to hear this is your first visualizer. You did a great job, and basic visualization. I think a lot of the music that we're playing of yours today are atmospheric. They're like soundtracks for a party or a room or a space or a visual. So I think the visualizer, electronica visualizer, the videos that you put together with the songs really work well together as that, because then the music is almost so subtle that by having the visuals simpler versus like a music video where there's characters acting, you're going to stop hearing the music. You might feel it, but you're going to stop hearing it. So I don't know. That's my 2 cents on that. But here is Black Pearl. That was Black Pearl by SuperScore. So we're here with SuperScore herself, otherwise known as Forrest Elizabeth Folsom, or potentially in the future, Ashton Martian, which I think is, and
Aston
more I think,
Martin.
it's
Just
a
think of
pretty
the
niche
car,
joke.
Aston
It's like
Martin.
British sci-fi geeks. I think it's more your Comic Con name. So if you go to Comic
That's my
Con,
Comic-Con
you could
name.
put like a little car around you, and antennas on
That's
top,
right. Yeah.
and then that will be your character. I didn't catch this before, but I hear Vangelis in this. Or Vangelis.
Yeah, definitely.
I'm
Yeah.
like, oh, those pads. I'm like, that's Blade Runner right there. And then there were some shifts that I'm like, oh, that's the maybe the Heaven and Hell album. For folks that don't know Vangelis, he got really famous for the theme for Chariots of Fire. The opening of the original Cosmos TV series was his music. Did a bunch of different soundtracks, late 70s, early 80s, and Blade Runner became
Absolutely.
know.
Yeah, all of that. All of yeah. Nangalis is like just emblazoned on my heart from that period of time in my life. But my list of influences is really like everybody else is long and undistinguished. I mean, it's like all these myriad bands from Rush, like oh my God, what can one of my most favorite bands on the planet, to Rachmaninoff, because I grew up in a classical music environment, and certainly Rachmaninoff was one of my most favorite composers for piano concertos. I've had a lot of exposure to classical works and a lot of symphonic band music and exposure to opera. And so, I have like this really weird, Led Zeppelin. I love Zeppelin. So it's just like so wide ranging. Certainly, like when I heard Tangerine Dream for the first time in Risky Business, and I don't know the average age of the call or of the people on the call today, but if you're not familiar with some of those movies, they're kind of iconic movies of the 80s. If you ever go back and see something interesting, those certainly the two that are Chariots of Fire, The Business, both
And
have
I'm
some
thinking about
incredible music in them.
like Blade Runner, another film that failed in the box office but has become legendary, pun intended, is Legend, and Tangerine Dream did the soundtrack to Legend.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of
They
those
also
scores.
did Firestarter, Stephen King's Firestarter, when Drew Barrymore was just a little girl. Oh my God, the music from that. Yeah.
I've never been a Stephen King fan, movie follower, so I missed that. Okay.
Oh
It's a reason to listen to that score.
Firestarter it's a pretty terrible movie, to be honest, but I think they should
But
remake it.
just listen to the score to Firestarter. Forget the film, listen to the score.
Yeah.
One of my favorite scores of all time, and I don't think this year I've honored it. Almost every year I put on headphones, I go in a dark room, and I listen to the score from start to finish, and that is John Williams' score for Close Encounters of the Third Kind. That score completely changed my life, because most of his stuff, like Star Wars and whatnot, is pretty, Beethoven derivative kind of, it's great stuff, but it is fairly reflective of a certain earlier era, where the Close Encounters soundtrack, I think it's the most abstract and experimental score he did for a major film. And hearing that score, as well as seeing the end sequence where there was the keyboard playing and the lights flashing, because I hadn't seen that until that moment. I'd seen all band stuff, and it was that moment that got me into these synthesizers and these lights that are going around. That all harkens right back to that moment in film. So you have all these influences, and I think you should share with the audience a story you shared with me the day when we were doing a practice run about the moment that you've grown up in this classical music family, and the moment that your secret got out and how they reacted.
Well, it's really funny because, yeah, so just to give you an idea of who I kind of had to grow up with, meaning like the greatness that was around me. My dad is utterly amazing musician and artist. He's created, he actually redid the Firebird. He has led a symphonic band and just done some amazing, rearrangement work on band compositions. He's led symphonies. He's a concert pianist in his own right, and his big foray in music was as a concert oboist. And so he trained with Ray Still, who was the first chair oboist in the Chicago Symphony. And so, yeah, I was raised by this man who can also sing, by the way, very well, and is one to get pissed off at the church choir if they can't pull it together. So, like, yeah.
So when did this family find out about your love of electronic music or pop
Well,
music?
my dad actually gets credit for making part of it happen for me, because he actually wanted to I think he wanted to get a synthesizer for me, and he also wanted to make certain sounds with it. He was really interested in how he could apply that to some music at the time too. So he bought the first of its kind mix of digital and analog technology built into a synthesizer. And this was the CZ5000 made by Casio and their CZ series. So the first synthesizer I had was a Casio CZ5000. And I think I was telling you, as a kid, I was way less intrigued by the tech itself. I just wanted to make, I just wanted to hear the sounds, to play, to get on that keyboard and have the sounds come out. So working with sound design and sound synthesis, it was more just all a guessing game for me. I was less interested in, why a voltage controlled oscillator does this or that, and, how to do it. That wasn't the most important thing to me. It was like, how does that pitch bend wheel work? Just, push it and, the job gets done.
And the whole keyboard thing is so much different than piano. A lot of folks say, oh, that looks like, piano. And you'll see people, okay, Yanni plays it like a piano. But I like to say it's an instrument that you play the keyboard with one hand, because the other hand is busy with knobs, pitch bends and slides and resonators, and the music a lot of times is I think can be more subtle than if you're going in a romantic period, a Chopin, banging on the piano, heavy keyboard. I think for your background, you have this real sense of the subtle and how to play with the sound so that a tone shifts over time. And it's not so much about, and yeah, you have your structure, your rhythmic structure and your chords, but it's the stuff I'm hearing today is less, sort of pop, this structure, boom, 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 boom.
No one will ever accuse you of being Philip Glass.
Philip Glass? Yeah. I don't hear Philip Glass in you. I don't hear that I hear you doing more pop chords. Subtle and laid out, drawn out in soundtrack wise, but I hear you more pop like Vangelis. I don't hear you doing the microtonal where you're just doing a little bit and you're going to shift it and then shift it. I don't know. Maybe I'm missing it.
No, I said it's not Philip Glass. It's not that rigid. It flows and transcends. This last track, it reminded me of the new age with an edge. This music I would hear in a Michael Mann crime drama.
It's kind of interesting because you could argue that a track like Black Pearl, falls a little more like ambient, but I never thought of myself as interested in or the music that I'm making falls into the massage parlor type of genre. It's not what I'm aiming for. I'm not in space, like.
Yeah, well, it's not new age crystal candles either.
Yeah, the new age thing, it never really did anything for me. But it's funny. Like, okay, that piece in particular, like you talked about the nuances and subtleties. I feel like my dad influenced me in a way in that piece, because if he describes a piece of music to me today, he'll talk in the arrangement about like the part where the trombones came on, and I thought I'm just gonna sock it to them, like to the audience.
Mm-hmm.
And that thought has always like kind of, I think it's like always back there in my brain. Like there are moments in Black Pearl when, it is kind of try to bring in some like heavy hitting, like, frequencies that kind of change things. That track, by the way, is from 2017. It has never even been mixed. So you're hearing an unmixed track that was written a long time ago. So it probably, I think I'm going to bring that one up to speed because I do love that track. I think there's a lot of beauty in it. But yeah, there's weird things in it too. Like literally, I mean, my love for pitch bend in that track is ridiculous. It was almost like, think of the pitch bend as a purring cat that I just kept petting. I'm just like, yeah, bend.
That's why I'm thinking of Blade Runner, that opening theme with that pitch bend, that drop.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For anybody on the call who doesn't know what pitch bend is, it's just when you take a note that, you're kind of holding it and you can go up or down, but it's like, or, things like that. You can do all kinds of crazy things. You can just go buck wild, which I probably don't recommend compositionally, but
Well,
yeah,
lightly. There's something to be said there. I know that when we'd be at the review class, your co-organizer, Gene, would be like, in that 17th bar, the fifth note in the chord, I would make diminished. And I'm like, I thank you so much for that. I will write that down and give that to someone else who can hear that. For our listeners, I think electronic music gives you can go as deep as Forrest is talking about, and we're getting really geeky and deep about details, but it also just opens this door where you can step in and immediately do something. Unlike, my guitars sitting over here in the corner that, irritate my fingers every day when I practice. It's a steep curve to get a string instrument and get that, physical proficiency. But if you can just touch something and immediately get that response, that music, oh my God, that sounds great. It eases that transition to get into working with and making music.
Yeah, and I guess the other thing on the nuance side of things is a lot of people are, when they make music today, haven't necessarily played an instrument. And if you don't play an instrument, you can still make music, but you do it a little differently. You might use your computer keyboard, or you might do what we call like draw it in, where you can click on a grid and you can put the note where you want it just by using your mouse. So you would find a sound that you like in that big complicated image in my screen there. And each one of those lines that you can see horizontally represents that. So you could pick a sound. It could be a piano, it could be a synthesizer, it could be a drum. And you can just draw that in. But for me, I am a pianist, and it's very hard for me. I don't really draw my music in. I play it, and if I mess it up, I correct it. The grid, like if there are things that don't sound quite right, I might make some corrections to what I've done. But the other thing I grew up with was, do you need a break, Caleb?
No. I'm checking out this light. I just been using this light. It's a little hotter on this camera.
I thought you were
than the
telling
other
me,
camera.
hold on a second.
No. This is secret code. Hey, Forrest, hold on. No. But, sorry about that.
No, not at all.
Yeah, it's interesting, this layers, because I'm starting to do, I went through a phase where what I would do is, I was like, I'm not going to try to learn anything. I'm just going to throw as random of stuff together, and I'm going to doodle all over and hit play and just have that, I just made music. Okay, now where can I go from there? Just to get past that mental hump of, I'm not good enough, or I don't know enough. And I found that electronic music allows you the space to go experiment. It might be something that no one else wants to listen to, but it liberates you from recognizing, oh, this is not some elite thing where I had to go to Juilliard before I was allowed to grace a note on a piece of paper, and I got that at university. My bachelor's, my minor that became really a second bachelor's, I felt that very intensely. It was about filtering out who was the cream of the crop and da-da-da-da. And for me, that was a barrier. So when I heard John Cage for the first time, and I'm like, oh, you're allowed to do that? You're allowed to be an artist and, like, bang on the piano and pluck the strings and just bring in all these chaotic elements. It was liberating for me because I felt like I was in a straitjacket of I'm not good enough. And so one thing I just wanted to drill home to people is not only is it the electronic music that can open it, but just doing something, going up to a keyboard and just going bam, 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 and then throw it in some software where it dices and slices it. My mother's always telling me I talk too much on the show and we don't play enough music. So I'm going to play another piece called Exodus. And it was interesting when I was testing the show before we went live. I started singing lyrics and vocals to the first half. The second half didn't work, but I've recorded those down just in case they are of any use. This is Exodus. That was Exodus by SuperScore. We are here interviewing Forrest Elizabeth Folsom, who is SuperScore, along with the folks that she collaborates with to create the track. I found this song interesting because it started off in that pop motif and then went into more like a video game music style and then wrapped up as a film score. So I'm curious, because I started my singing along with it. And I was thinking about this idea of like, okay, the Exodus is travel to a promised land. Okay, what about using that as a metaphor for traveling through these dark times in the hope of coming out the other end? And so making it about modern times using that Exodus theme. And all of a sudden it was like, no, I can't sing this anymore. It is a dance party. or it had to be like Mario Brothers,
That's right. Yeah.
So what is this?
Yeah.
What's the background on this track?
Well, this is what you get when you combine a trans producer with me, who I think writes something like nostalgic chill hop. I don't know what you would even call my music, but anyway, so Peter Romeliotis is a wonderful producer, originally in the trans space. He spent a solid year learning trans technically. Like, his level of execution is just really amazing. And
and for the folks that don't know, trance is a form of electronic music.
Yeah. It's a dance, dance vibe, and it's pretty fast usually. And but we had, just for fun, we had started collaborating on different things, and when we get together, some really interesting things come out. So you can we decided we were going to make a science piece, and I don't think we even got even remotely close. I don't even know what we made, but there's a lot of beauty in that piece.
So you made a chimera. Yeah. You made you've brought a bunch of different spices and ingredients into the kitchen, and you made an interesting dish, and it's a cool dish. But it's not Thai, it's not Mexican, it's not, it's this synthesis. It's a fusion, fusion restaurant kind of situation.
That is like, that's definitely, oh God, what is that restaurant serve? It's like Japanese, Mexican, Mexinese. Yeah, like it's definitely a fusion. Yes, it's a fusion recipe for certain.
But yet it still has its distinct styles from two different camps. Very cool. Folks, if you have any questions for us, do post in the comments. I know the watch party has its own comments and the YouTube has its own comments. And so I'm monitoring all those up on my big screen here. And if you have any questions about the music, music production, feel free to throw it out. I find most people seem to watch the show passively and be shy about asking questions of our artists. But this is a great opportunity for you to say, if you have anything in your life you want to know more, explore, you've got experts in the room that you could get information from.
Yeah, just to build on that, because I'm used to answering tons of questions in the chat during our meetup. I just always tell everybody there are no stupid questions. If there's something that you don't know and you want to learn more about, or if there's something you know a lot about and you have something to add, please, I'd love to hear from anybody who has a question for me or any of you.
We have one more. But, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I just also just let people know who Peter is. He is Helix, DJ Helix, and it just so happens there are a lot of Helix out there, so it might be a little hard to find him. But Peter is working on some really exciting projects. We have a Facebook page for the SVMP meetup, which I'm constantly posting on, more than I like almost rarely, post, but for the sake of family and friends on my own.
What is the meetup called? I've heard multiple names from the event.
Yes. So since last March, we rebranded it. It's always been Laptop Music Production Workshop. Okay. And the reason we rebranded is because laptop for us was less meaningful. We do have musicians, working in just an instrumental environment and not working on a laptop. Generally, yes, people are producing in the box, in the computer. But we have an incredible range of accomplished producers, including yourself, Caleb. But we've got a couple Grammy Award winners who attend the call and give feedback on tracks. So it's a wonderful meetup. And a lot of the artists I mentioned today who I've worked with are, I know them and have become friends with them over time because of the meetup. So yeah, I would love for everybody to get to know them and follow them on their journeys because they're just amazing. And Peter is certainly one of them. And he's actually shifted out of trans now and is doing some other things. So he actually sent me something right before the meetup. He's like, "Can you listen to this?" Or before this call.
I have every time I hear trans, I have to think about how niche electronic music is. This person spent a year just learning trance electronica. So every little genre of electronic music, there's these thousands of these little different branches and morphs and it grows off of it. And Stefan Ayers in the yesterday we had a listening party for Balanced Breakfast, and he's like, "Yeah, I'm now getting into bro step." And I'm like, "What is that?" He's like, "Because dubstep is dead and bro step is the new step." And I'm like, "Okay, this is getting silly."
Oh my gosh.
It's dance music. It's electronic dance music.
There's an interview with
and it's really true. It's like the jazz people don't really talk to the blues people, don't talk to the rock people. It's like that sort of thing, but much more subtle. But speaking of,
I definitely think that is just a function of, people are trying to learn in a different way. If you learned music by playing, instruments, you grow up with a broad range of music. For example, if you've been playing all your life, but if you come into music production just wanting to learn like, oh, I love house music and I want to learn how to produce house music, what you do is you have no real musical background and you go and you watch tutorials and you learn from that. And so music has become very genre and subgenre specific in that way. I personally have been able to straddle a lot of things. I mean, like the first track, Zoom Time, I literally referenced, oh my God, I referenced Summertime, Will Smith's Summertime from the 90s, which is a really great hip hop video and the vibe of that, and then I'm listening to all the current trap and, hip hop that's going on, and you hear some of that in the percussion. I'm listening to pop and pulling in from that. But, that's very different than the way people work. I mean, I work with people who don't really work outside of their genre. And so, it's really interesting how people learn now. It's a very different approach to music.
This is very important because even if you have a genre that you focus on, it doesn't mean you can't draw from other genres, because music is the genre, and all the greatest recording artists and musicians, even live musicians, they are not limited by genre, and so whether or not what they play a specific genre, but their range, their interest, and their background knowledge is far-reaching insofar as music. Ska musicians knowing about early '60s music, or whatnot, and I could go on forever. Celtic, Middle Eastern fusion. That's just another example, right? So even if you have a genre that you stick to, your influences and your education can and should be far-reaching. That way, all the stuff you bring to the table, even if it's your table, it's an international cuisine.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's a sort of cross-training, it's like sports. You're better at your sport if you cross-train than if you were to, to actually just work on that sport all of the time. So you just learn from other genres. And so it's good for anybody who's joined the call who's interested in making music. It is something to know to, kind of look around it, what intrigues you, but also look outside of that to what doesn't necessarily intrigue you, but, explore it, see what you can learn from it.
Even the mediums too, it could be different. It could be a dance floor. It could be an online radio station. It could be a movie you're watching. And those influences are far-reaching.
Absolutely.
Folks, we are getting to the point that we are going to only be able to have one more song project that we go over, and I'm going to keep that for the after party. So we are going to move into after party right now. You're watching Sunday Live with Caleb. Our guest this week is SuperScore, otherwise known as Forrest Elizabeth Folsom, producer, songwriter. Now, in After Party, we loosen up a little. So I see Peter, who's going to teach the 7 o'clock class on UNI softwares here. So I'm just going to bring him on, and we'll have Peter participate in the After Party, where we will talk about your project for Agatron.
Oh, this is a cool one. Yeah.
Hey, Peter, you out there?
Looks like he's trying to connect.
Hello, Peter. So for folks that are into electronic music and creative software, visualizers and stuff like that, I run a software company called UNI Software, where you can basically design your own plugins and mathematical systems to modify visuals. In fact, you have a Mac, don't you, Forrest?
I do. Yeah.
Oh, okay. I'm going to hook you up because I think you could go deep with this stuff. And the famous Metasynth software that is being now recreated for the newer Apple operating system. And I see Peter is attached. Can you hear us, Peter?
Hello.
Hello, Peter.
Hello.
Peter's contacting
Hey,
us
Peter.
from
Good evening.
Australia here.
Hey, Joe.
Well, good
Joe's
morning.
here.
Hello, Peter.
Hello.
Nice to meet you.
You too.
And our guest this week is Forrest, and she is a music producer. Okay, I'm going to put this out. Forrest, you can tell me I'm wrong, but she's like a Vangelis kind of person.
Oh, cool.
Oh yeah, you're totally wrong. Don't box me in like that. But yes.
Imagine
I write
Vangelis
something
with
that
hip hop and
sound that way.
trance and
Yeah.
soundtrack. So we've been playing some of her stuff, and the first track that we showed tonight was called Zoom Time. It's a 10-year-old kid talking about COVID and being stuck at home, and he wrote this rap, and Forrest produced the track, and it's fun and hilarious, and we're going to play that before we do the UNI training. I'm going to
cool.
replay that for folks. And the other stuff I would describe as more trancey soundtrack with pop elements and whatnot. So we're in an after party, and we're going to talk about one other project. So I'm going to play a clip of the original here, Forrest, and I have the volume down on the original so we can talk about Agatron and give people some context of
I think
how
it's
this
good
project,
to play the short clip first.
yeah, how it started and what it then became. All right, so we got Agatron here doing a dance performance. We got some DJs doing some beats behind it. So how did this then come to you?
Well, so we went to a show. I would call it almost like a sideshow. It's called Tourette's Without Regrets. I'm not sure if anybody knows of this project, but you know about it, Joe? Have you seen
Yes.
it? Yeah. Okay. So
Yeah.
it's a full show. It contains a lot of different things like rap battles and trapeze artists and just all kinds of different things. And it stemmed out of a guy who he used to write really dirty poetry or things that got him kicked out of poetry competitions, and he decided he was going to have his own show. I'm pretty sure it draws the Burning Man crowd. At any rate, so we're seeing the show, and then a golden pop locking robot comes onto the stage and does a performance. And I just sat there with my jaw dropped a little bit, and you'll see why. I'm not going to say more about Agatron just yet, but it inspired me, and so I'll tell you the rest of the story afterwards. But we provided a clip of her. I said it. Damn it.
Oopsie.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Her,
So
yeah.
we have
Her
the
dancing
original
stage.
clip.
Yeah.
Well, I'm
So
going to
you
play the
see the
video
clip,
now,
so you know.
and then
Yeah.
I'll play the video now, and then we'll come back and talk about it.
That sounds good. Okay.
All right.
Agatron.
That was someone's playing the video in the background with sound on. That was Agatron with SuperScore soundtrack, which is I was fascinated by this video because I'm like, what is going on here? Because I saw the full video first, and then I realized, oh, she's taken a performance artist and rescored it in a classical style or a piano more focus, and that's not what you expect. The original track, I think, has some craft work. I'll probably get a copyright ding on that. But yeah, your score is completely different than the music she was actually dancing to. So how did this
It's
collaboration come
completely
about?
different. Yeah. Okay. So the funny thing is, I wrote the music after I saw her perform, and I sent it to her. I found out who she was. She's a dance company called Iron Lotus in Oakland and San Francisco. And I found an email address for her, and I just sent her the track, and I said, I was so inspired by you. And actually in the style of Janelle Monáe, who I love. You know, Janelle writes with a backstory to the music. And so I just conceived this, you know, I let my child brain go crazy and kind of conceived of this fantasy of this golden pop locking robot on the top of a mountain having some cathartic experience, and like maybe own shot like going around her. Yeah, so I sent it to her, and we became fast friends. We met shortly thereafter for lunch, and the rest was history. She's a wonderful human being, and I encourage everyone to check her out. She has done so much to advance women in the sport of dance and popping and strutting. There are indie films that she's featured in. She's amazing, and she studied with what she would call the original gangsters in San Francisco to learn her craft. So I want to give her that shout out. But yes, she just inspired me, and the song came out, and this was very early in my music production when I first started, you know, really working with Logic. And you know, you can hear some stock stuff in there. You know, at the time I wasn't really able to make beats as well. So, you know, I used some drum loops to try and accomplish the percussion. But and the piano piece was, you know, that comes from again, at the time as a pianist, it was easy for me to default to piano. So as I was building the track, you'll, you know, hear piano in it, which isn't something I do as much today. Now when I structure a track, I tend to use piano just to get the idea out, but I don't feature it as much in my tracks. But I've always had a soft spot for that track. It felt special to me on many levels. And what I did, the video that scored to, I just did that yesterday because that was the only video I had that you could show and show the track. I took her video and chopped it and hoped it fit close enough. So just to kind of get the idea across of who is she, because that particular video shows what she's capable of, shows her dance style, and shows what she looks like as a golden robot, which was exactly what I pictured in my mind. But stylistically, yes, it's just very different from the type of music that she works with. But the other piece of that story that was really beautiful is when I met up with her for lunch for the first time. We went to her studio, and she had taken the track and tried to create a choreography to it and performed it for me. And, wow, you know, it was just very touching, a very special story. So I'm just proud to show that piece of music today because it just has such a, you know, special place in my heart. So
that was the question I was going to have was, you know, have you folded that back in where you're reacting to her and then you replace the music and place that. And so there's this, the way that collaboration works, it can happen in just infinite possibilities of way folks are interacting. But I think the best collaboration is when it starts folding like dough. You know, you put this in, push this in, but then it starts getting molded and starts sort of folding in on itself. So now she's taking the music. Now she's reacting to the music, creating some new thing that maybe she wouldn't have done if she was listening to the more electronic beat stuff, right? And I'd be fascinated to see if, you know, how that has evolved or if it has evolved.
Yeah, I mean, I think we both moved on from that one, but, you know, I think that we were talking because we talked the other day about using some of this footage. And, you know, one thing that she pointed out to me is she was talking about how our crafts inform one another. And, that the art is created because because we're using these tools and because we're working together and I mean, it's just kind of symbolic of how it doesn't have to. Inspiration can come from so many different places, and collaboration can come from so many different places. And when those two things, they come together in this intersection of something that was never there in the world before. I always think that about music, like the world is forever changed because you wrote a song and put it out there, or you danced something that came from your body, your ability to move, that is very different than any other person's body. So that art and furthering, especially fringe arts, like I would say, not a lot of people are involved in pop walking. I mean, it's a smaller community, and to focus on it the way Agatron has, to bring awareness to it, and then to use it as a platform to discuss diversity, to discuss, adversarial environments and for women, where she was trying to dance in the world of men, and literally she put on that costume in order to have them stop giving her a hard time. She would get terrible taunts when she'd show up as a girl to pop locking battles, and so she came up with this costume, and then that informed a new form of art for her to create a piece where nobody knows if she's a man or a woman, or may assume that she's a man, or any variation on who she could be, or who could be under that costume. And when she strips it all away, it just shows us that our expectations sometimes, or our assumptions, are false, and that we have a new realization, we have new information. So I really love that about that experience, and I know that if the time's right, we'll make we'll make something together in the future. But either way, I know we'll continue to support each other. So
very cool.
Yeah,
and a
really
dancer
wonderful
can
experience.
inspire musicians is very touching. The call and response between musicians and dancers, be it live performances or something like this, is it speaks volumes. And it goes way back, and it's alive and well today. That's what I'm seeing now, and it's very heartfelt to watch.
Awesome. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for bringing a whole new dimension to the show. It's one of the reasons why I wanted you on the program. Is I know you're coming at all of this music, creative, artistic world from just this slightly different angle than any other folks that we've had on the show. And so I'm very thankful you're willing to join. And my mind's now spinning on other collaborations I could make, and some earlier episodes that were more art focused world. And we've sort of had this split between art and music during the episodes. Well, probably art, music, live, and art and music in the studio. Those three themes. And you're kind of jumping across these areas between dance performance, music, live, then studio interaction with the live. It's very unique, and you got my mind going on a couple potential future projects.
That's awesome. And I can't thank you enough for having me. As you know, I kind of like to remain behind the scenes, except when it comes to the meetup. I mean, I get out there in front of, 30 to 50 people on a pretty regular basis on that call. But, I've really been focused on mentorship lately, and certainly it's been cool to have the Zoom Time project this year. And then, I'm just sitting down and working on music, but hopping on a live interview isn't something I normally do, and I really appreciate the opportunity. It has really been fun to talk about this stuff and show some of this work. I definitely have enjoyed that experience. Thank you.
Cool. Well, you are definitely welcome, and I know we'll be talking more. And I know you are such a great person that we will have a part 2 episode in the new year, if willing. And I want to thank Joe for being here as my sidekick, adding a little bit of spice to the meal and his words of wisdom. And I need to make sure that I provide some time for Peter and I to set up this class. But before I do that, I want to show Zoom Time again. So folks, hold on. If you missed the beginning of the show and you missed Zoom Time, You've got to watch it. Hey, you saw Zoom Time already? Watch it again. Here is Zoom Time.
Let's go! Welcome to my video. My name is Sri Krishna. I like to explore cause that's my persona. But I'm stuck in my home now, thanks to Corona. School's online. Will I get my diploma? Stuck in my home? I don't need no sunscreen, but I won't lie, it can get tough in quarantine. Seeing my friends, that's what I be wanting. But this virus going crazy, so my TV and me bonding. I don't like online school. My friends and I are cool. I'm stuck in my bedroom. Make this virus go kaboom. School sessions happen on Zoom. Music PE dance on Zoom. Hanging with my brother in the living room. But when I go on Fortnite, I go boom, boom, boom.
I am a player just to pass the time. Staying safe inside and making my rhymes.
I'm tired of sitting at the screen all day. I wanna go outside with my friends to play. And if I may say, this Corona is great. Corona, leave us, just go away. I like to ride my bike and I like to ride fast, but it's kind of hard to breathe when I'm wearing a mask. We can't go to the pool on these hot summer days. Is COVID-19 really here to stay? School in the fall? On a video call? Guess I'm stuck in my room. Make Corona go kaboom. School sessions happen on Zoom. Music PE dance on Zoom. Hanging with my brother in the living room. But when I play basketball, boom, boom, boom.
I am a baller just to pass the time. Play on my driveway keeps me feeling fine.
We can't go to dinner, no parties, no love. We wash too many dishes, we always have to cook. I try to do my homework and sometimes I get stuck. But my teachers are so cool and they help me cause they rock. I would rather go to school. My friends and I are cool. I do what I gotta do. Make this time go kaboom. School sessions happen on Zoom. Music PE dance on Zoom. Hanging with my brother in the living room. But when I get on YouTube, I go boom, boom, boom. When I get on YouTube, I go boom, boom, boom.
I am Sri Krishna and I'm here to say, just keep on exploring each and every day. Someday we'll be in school again. See you on Zoom to COVID-19.
Coronavirus, bye. Stay safe, everybody.
So that was Zoom Time here with SuperScore today. And so, again, thank you for being on the show and sharing your work with everybody and giving us some insight on how, music is being produced today. I think we will have you back, and I would love to hear your thoughts about AI and where that's taking us. But it's a whole nother can of worms, so I will put a pin in that. And thank everybody for watching out there. Thank you, Joe,
everybody.
for joining
Thank you,
in.
Forrest.
And I will catch you, Joe, next week. And Forrest, I will catch you online. Ciao.
Bye,
All
everybody.
right. Good night, everybody.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody, for watching. Oh, wow, my screen's really blown out. I look like a ghost. Watching this week, we are live every Sunday from 5 to 6, so we say. But you know what? We always go to 7. So if you got a couple hours, do join us every week. We'll have live music from folk music to electronic music to rock music to gallery artists. Every week is something different. And I look forward to bringing you a little slice of these artists' world each week that you may never have otherwise come across. Again, and thank you for participating in the comments. Oh, the comments are over here. And again, if you ever have any questions, feel free to reach out to me. My contact information is Caleb Duart on Facebook. My 3 different band projects are on Bandcamp. So caleb.bandcamp.com, audioterrace.bandcamp.com, queerblue.com. If you want to see music for any of these 3 band projects, they are available on YouTube as well. You guys have a great week. Take care out there, and see you again soon.